Hey guys, welcome. Muskie Road Rule Podcast number 280 of these things. Guys, I know the last couple weeks I haven't been very good at getting the podcast up. There's been a whole lot of things happen, mainly as I've moved up to the northwest angle from Kentucky and fished the Madison tournament. I will say fished. I will not say caught. That was one of the tougher tournaments that we've done. We had, I think, 94 boats in it, so that is, what is that? Let's do some quick math. I'm getting out with my calculator. Carry the one. That would be, if there's two people per boat, that would be 190 something. 198 fishermen, and there was 12 muskies caught in 2 days. 12. That was a tough deal. And we were not one of the and only one team doubled, Mr. Lejiski, who won it last year. They went back and defended his crown and did good. I was trying to get Mark on, and we just kept missing each other. And I'll get Mark on sometime and make him spill the beans. And I like to rattle his chain anyway to see if I can get him to say something good and to release some of those Lejeski secrets and everything. So, but it was a tough tournament. It was it was absolutely brutal. And then come up here. I'm at Lake of the Woods right now, up in the northwest angle, and fishing's been okay. It's not been lights out, but it has gotten better here lately, so it's been a good deal. But before we get going here, we gotta talk about this. Today's podcast is brought to you by Thorne Brothers, guys. If you're in Minnesota, if you own a computer, why don't you go to thornbros.com? Check it out, man. If you're looking for electronics, rods, reels, their custom line of rods, and even their new Stealth series are pretty phenomenal, guys. If you're looking for some really good stuff, check out Thorne Brothers. They're right there in Minnesota. I think they're in Fridley, Minnesota. They're just north of the cities, and you're going to find out what you need. They've also got fish electronics and the fly angler. I mean, they've got so much stuff right there. The electronic staff is great. They can tell you exactly what you need for your boat. If you need it, they got it. Check them out, thornbros.com. You can also text us on our text line, the Lunge and Lures text line, which is 606-776-6729. Guys, shoot us a text, right? Yeah, let us know how you're doing out there. Let us know if you're catching fish. Or, I'm always looking for guests. Let me know who would make a good guest, let me know who I could talk to about muskie fishing, and sometimes the goofier the better. So I would love to do that. Shoot me a text. Let me know some guys I can reach out to and maybe talk about these crazy fish with. But again, the Lunge and Lures text line, 606-776-6729. Lunge and Lures. Make sure the 22 short, 22 long, 22 SS. They got so much stuff now. Go to lungeandlures.com. Also the spinners, the original Lunge and Tail, DC9, DC10, and the Nutbuster spinner bait. Check them out at lungeandlures.com. Guys, today on the show, we've got a Canadian. We went north of the border. From 54 or bust, we have Glenn McDonald. Glenn, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good this morning. Excuse me, Greg. And you touched on a lot of things in your intro there. 280 episodes for you guys. That's good. You guys are racking up the miles there. I think I've listened to probably 270 of them. So yeah, congrats on that. That's cool. It's cool that you guys keep this thing going here, and listening to guys talk about that Madison tournament, that sounded like it was a real kick in the pants for a lot of guys, and that almost sums up the beginning of muskie season, I think, for a lot of people. And it's tough when you go to a tournament and it's tough fishing like that can really demoralize some people, but you got to just work through it. But man, when you hear those kind of stories, that really hits home.
Yeah, it was brutal. I spent 5 days down there, and we contacted a few fish, but man, when I say contact, I mean some strikes. I mean, we never put any in the boat. It was absolutely, it was tough. I mean, there was a lot of really good anglers down there, and we heard that from a lot of people. That it was a rough deal. So I'm hoping that the one in Minnetonka gets better, because the Cave Run tournament wasn't too bad. I mean, there was 32 fish caught, but the Madison one, we're talking a tournament in a lake at one point had some of the record most fish caught in it. So yeah, I don't know what's going on down there. I know that I've heard some theories and stuff from fish were caught, fishing during, incredibly hot water. We heard it. The fish were being lost over the dam. Fish are, who knows? But at the end of the day, it was a tough deal. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll, that fishery will rebound and things will go good. But how has it been over in your part? What is the main lakes, or the main, you don't have to talk about the lakes, but the main area of Ontario that you're fishing?
So for us, we're right in Vermilion Bay, so right on the shores of Eagle Lake. Like I've said before, to probably a lot of the listeners would probably know, I'm like 5 minutes from Andy Myers, 10 minutes from Temple Bay, so a couple of the big Eagle Lake lodges. North Shore Lodge, where Doug Wagner stays with the Jaggers, that's like 15 minutes from my house, just for perspective. So we fish Eagle a lot. We go up, we fish Cedar, Peralt, little bit on the Goon, and then a couple of the smaller lakes, the Indian Lake Chain, Canyon, and then some of the outlying lakes. But we're an hour to Kenora to do Lake of the Woods, and an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half up to Lac Sewell, which I haven't did. I would like to get up there, but that's kind of where we're at. And a couple weeks ago for opener, and we don't ever usually get super jacked up for opener, and this was the earliest opener we could possibly have. So again, for perspective, our opener was exactly a full week earlier than it generally is, just the way the calendar falls for that third Saturday in June. So we went out on opener. We went to one of the smaller lakes where we typically, we're able to kind of scrap together a 2 or 3 fish day, and we only ended up with one. We moved quite a few. We had a couple short strikes. We had a couple lazy figure eights, and it was pretty typical Shield stuff for opener. It was a mix of weeds, rocks. We didn't really spend any time in the shallow bays looking for the kind of holdover males that might be back there after spawning, because we're just, we're not interested in that 32 to 36 inch fish. Not that they weren't there, because I think they were, but we concentrated more on, those areas that the fish would probably be moving out to. So the outer edges of the weeds, that were up, and then those first break lines and first points coming out. And it was definitely a mixed bag that opening weekend, and I've heard that from a lot of people. I know Thatcher down in Nestor Falls and Lake of the Woods said there's been, kind of a similar thing down there. Guys are seeing them, but they're just not really eating. The Eagle Lake guys, we're hearing some success, but I haven't heard of anybody really lighting it up yet.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're seeing over here. Here lately, like this week, things have gotten way better, in my opinion. And that meaning that we're moving a lot more fish and definitely getting shots, at some fish. Water temperatures are still, we had, I don't know, did you guys have that crazy wind yesterday?
Oh, it's been crazy wind for pretty much the last month. We've only had little breaks in it. I guided Eagle last Friday, and that was really the only super calm day we've had. So yeah, yesterday was really windy. I was going to go out yesterday, and I held off because we had a big storm come through right at supper time. So I'm kind of glad I stayed off the water, but that's been a huge problem. I'm assuming same as you guys down at the angle, Greg. The wind has just been relentless.
Yeah, the wind yesterday was absolutely ridiculous. It was, yeah, I mean, it was gusting, in the mid 30s, and then finally about 5 o'clock it started to lay down. So we went out in the evening and moved some fish. But our water temps, are in that 60. I don't know. I mean, I think true water temp, I think we're in that 66 to 67 range. If it's calm and in a bay, you might see low 70s. But we're still kind of cool. But I think we're actually still where we should be. Last year was just really warm. From all the early temps being warm like they were. But yeah, I mean, in this morning, I mean, we're doing this podcast at 8 a.m. and it's chilly this morning. It's only like 52, 53 degrees here. So we're not really getting the heat or anything right now to heat the water temps up. We had a little bit last week, but the wind has been, the wind has not been our friend, is what I will say. I've always said on here and to other people that people that say they like fishing in the wind have never fished in the wind, because it is awful, especially some of the wind we've had.
Yeah, especially on these big shield lakes. And I know a lot of people like having that, classic walleye chop for fishing, and we do too. I like that little bit of a walleye chop. It gives you some cover for your boat, and it just generally makes fishing easier. But for folks that haven't come up and fished some of these big shield lakes, when it's blowing up here and you got some of these big basins, it not only does it get rough to run through with your boat, it makes staying on a spot, even if you can get out of the waves, the way that a lot of these lakes are set up, you just get those weird gusts of wind, and you got so many high banks around these lakes that you get that weird downdraft, and it'll push your boat around. People really struggle with boat control up here, and you've fished shield lakes enough, Greg, that that up here boat control is like 90% of the game. If you have no boat control, you are just not going to catch fish, and that's probably one of the biggest things I see people struggle with when they come up here, especially on the deep clear lakes where you got to really be precise with your cast and your positioning. And I struggled for years with it, and now I feel like I'm a lot better, and I work a lot harder at boat control and working spots slower where you have to, and being quicker where you got the opportunity to. But wind, that just makes that so much tougher.
Yeah, and the other thing too, let's talk about the boat control thing here. I find boat control is not as much a huge thing in weeds, but if you're fishing rock, which is a lot of shield lake fishing, especially if you're trying to work points and stuff, where we've been finding fish here lately have been on any type of, I say windblown, but not ridiculously windblown points, or extensions off of islands, whether it be like an apron that comes off or any kind of big extension that comes out there, has been where we've been finding most of our fish. And when you're running those, I mean, we do have the nice Lake Master maps now, or the Navionics, or whatever chip you're running, or if you're creating your own map, we do have that technology now. But the key to a lot of that is being able to keep your boat off the structure and not drift over some of those areas. You want to stay off and, a good cast length, because everything I've found while fishing rocks or fishing, anything to do with that is, if you can get those fish to come off that structure and out into, a little bit deeper water where your boat is, the chances of that fish biting as it's leaving, or at boat side goes up tremendously. Is that something you found?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that's something we talk about a lot on the channel. And I don't take any credit for kind of talking about that, because guys like Herbeck have talked about it for years, and Cal Ritchie up here on Eagle. You got to get those fish away from that structure, and in a lot of cases those fish will be sitting just suspended off that first break line or the second break line. And that's another problem. I see a lot of people that come up to Shield Lakes for the first time. They want to sit so tight to structure or that point or rock pile off of the shore that they're sitting on top of the fish. So, yeah, we always start a little bit deeper and work our way in. But, yeah, if you can get that fish to come off of the structure over open water, you got a lot more opportunity to get that fish to engage in a figure eight, or even if it turns off partway to the boat, you usually have a chance to cast back at it because it's still kind of sitting out over that open water, as opposed to if you're classic weed fishing and you move a fish out of the weeds and you're sitting really tight to the edge of the weeds, that fish can return to cover super easy, and it's a lot harder to get that fish to engage. So, yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that we kind of learned over in fishing Vermilion in Minnesota. The longer the cast that you can comfortably make, and for everybody that's different, right? I mean, for everybody, every skill level, it's different on how far they can cast and everything. But if you can get those casts out there, lengthen those casts, be able to get off that structure more, especially when you're fishing straight retrieve baits or baits that you can stay in good contact with, you're going to be able to get more fish to strike, especially off of rock or super with the structure. I mean, anytime you can do that, the better. And those fish will. Oh, excuse me, Glenn. You got me up too early this morning.
Hey, it was your call.
I know. I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole. I've got guys here. We got to get out fishing today, so I didn't want to wait too long. But anytime you can get off that structure a little bit, that's a big part of it. And with the Shield Lakes up here, Glenn, what are you seeing right now? I mean, what are guys saying over in your area as far as the guys that are contacting some fish? What are they finding them on? Is it like what I was saying here, the points or aprons off the islands, or is it weed based, or what are you seeing?
So yeah, for the most part, I've been out guiding a few times here already to start the season. Been out with my buddy Dave a few times, and then kind of in contact with a lot of the guides and camp owners. So kind of seeing the same pattern that you're seeing. We're getting some fish that are in the weeds. Water temps are anywhere from that low mid 60s to high upper 60s, maybe 70. But again, that true water temp, you even see that difference between the trolling motor and the back of the boat. That 2 feet difference, is making a 2 to 3 degree difference. So temps are just surface temps.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn, it was pretty amazing. When I got here, I was reading, on my graph, on my Humminbird, I was reading like 68, 67 degree water, but then on my live scope, which is down a little bit further, I was reading 64. So, I was reading a good 3 degrees difference in just a couple of feet. So that told me right there that this water temperature down there is still pretty damn chilly. And that's the thing too. And then that's the other thing I've learned, this year so far, the, baits that are worked a little slower, not necessarily burning them, but baits that are staying down 2 to 3 feet are definitely moving more fish than baits going faster.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So most of the guys are seeing that mix, that wherever the weeds are up and they're good, which isn't everywhere. We've found on pretty much every lake we've been on historic spots where there should be good weeds. Some areas are not up as good yet, and other areas are really good. And then you got those rockfish that are starting to move to those first rock points coming out of the main, bay areas. And out on Eagle on last Friday, I started to see a few fish on that classic summer open water rock piles. So I think we're probably a week or so away from fish setting up, and I think we need to see that 70-degree water before we really see fish setting up. And another thing that kind of tells me that is that the walleye guys are still catching muskies. So the walleyes haven't fully moved out to the open water structure yet in our area. So a lot of cases, the walleyes are still kind of holding up on slightly shallower areas, and it seems that the muskies are still around them. I know 2 near legal or legal sized muskies caught on a jig and a minnow. One was up on the English River system. Another one was on Eagle Lake. And so that kind of tells me there that, things haven't fully set up to, full summer patterns. And again, guys like Steve Herbeck and, some of the other guys that have fished Shield Lakes for years, they'll tell you that it's usually that 1st to 7th of July where you're right into that pure summer pattern.
Yeah. I still think we got fish moving. I think they're kind of scattered and stuff, but I will say that over here we are starting to see some bigger fish, which is nice. We got a real nice 49 on Sunday, and then we've moved here in the last few days probably 4 fish in the upper 40s to 50-inch class, which has been nice to see. And for us over here, one of our better baits has been a 9-10 combo from Mayhem, has been good. And then also I've been playing with Suics. The Suics have been really good early for me. I like a stop and go bait early in the season. And then also been playing some with swimming dogs. And they're really starting to look at those, and I think those are going to be something over this next week that are really going to be helping us. Has there been any particular bait or anything like that that's been working for you, Glenn?
Well, to start the season, I would agree with that slower presentation. They didn't really seem to want to chase bucktails or spinner baits right off the get-go. So I put on what I would refer to as a castable fly. So it's a small marabou type of bait from Mad Chase out of southern Ontario. But think of it as a 5-inch double, like the jointed marabou with a single dress treble and no blades or nothing, a little bit of weight in the head, and I could just pop that in and out of the weeds. I know Andy Muntz makes some of those castable flies, and they seem to be a type of lure that I think more guys are starting to turn to. And I know when we caught our first fish on it, guys on our channel commented like, I would never look at that type of lure if I didn't see it actually catch a fish. It's another one of those things. I think it's a mindset that if it doesn't look like a conventional musky lure, it's not going to work. But that castable fly style of lure where you can really pop it and move it and almost walk it around weeds or rocks. I've moved a lot of fish in the early part of the season with it. I would agree with the Suics. Dave and I have been throwing Suics. We haven't been hit on them, but they move fish. I find early season, they almost work like a glide bait in that it's a search tool. Mm-hmm. If you can't move a fish with a fast-moving bait up front, generally like a Suic out the back, you can work it a little slower, and you generally get that little, investigation from a muskie, wants to see what's going on. And just as a teaser, we have what's going to end up being a couple show color Suics for next season that we're trying out this year. And the one that I've been throwing a lot, I really like, and I think over the course of the summer, we're going to get some fish on it. So that's a bit of a teaser there from Suic. They're going to be doing some cool stuff for show season next year already. So interesting that you say the swimming dog, because that, to me, I always think of that as a little bit more of a pure summer or late summer bait. And I've been throwing a little bit of the swimming dog and a couple other styles of swim baits. I haven't been really seeing much on it, but I agree when the water warms up here, that's something that we turn to. Yeah,
it's something that basically I'm just wanting to fish a bait that'll get down that extra 2 to 3 feet. And, what we've been doing is with something like that is as it, throwing it up there to the rocks, and as basically I think that it's cleared the structure, slowing it down a little bit, letting it get down some. And, it's been showing some fish. The other thing, too, is, some of these fish are coming in pretty deep on baits. I run a perspective mode on my Garmin, so I'm able to see, kind of a wider area around the boat, and see those fish that are coming in. And what I've noticed is about half our follows we're getting right now, and even some of the fish that we've caught have been because of extended figure eights, because being able to see them, not being able to see them with our eyes, because our water here is actually, in some areas is actually pretty dirty. We've gotten so much rain, which, Glenn, I'm assuming you guys have too. We've gotten so much rain. Some of the water is pretty stained right now, and it's tough to, with the glare or with, the wind, it's been really hard to see some of these fish. And if it wasn't for the perspective mode on the Panoptics, I don't even know if we'd even see the damn things.
Yeah, I would agree. The last couple trips I've had out, I've been switching between perspective and forward mode. And I use the forward mode, especially around structure, to use it as an absolute tool to keep myself away from the structure, that and using my auto chart so that I know kind of where I want to be casting distance. And then around the shallow structure, I like to put it on perspective mode. And even, like you say, even if you don't see those fish, you get to see that shadow of the fish turning. You might be able to see it set up, 20, 30 feet from the boat. It's a cool tool. We're not going to debate that here, but I've seen the exact same thing. We've seen a lot of fish that are coming in off of that deep structure on forward mode, and they're coming in, they're holding up away from the boat, and then in a lot of cases we're getting them to come right into the boat into a deep figure eight. We may not even get a shot at them, but they're engaging around the boat, and then they're rolling off. So they're not quite in that, that mode to go. Another bait I was going to ask you about, Greg, have you tried out the new pit bull? I was fortunate enough to get a couple from Jeff at Team Rhino to try up on the Shield Lakes here, and I know they should be coming out any time now. I know Jeff's been getting a lot of slack. I haven't talked to Brad about it, but when I first heard about the pit bull, I thought, it's a little bit small for Shield Lakes, but that little bit extra weight forward really seems to make that a slightly different bulldog. And I did catch a little dink here on the weekend on it, but we moved a lot of fish in what I would typically use a Suic or a similar dive and rise, as opposed to maybe a rubber around some shallower stuff, and still able to get that classic pull pause from the pit bull. Have you tried that at all, Greg?
I've got a couple of them. I have not been trying them too much. I've tried a lot of stuff. I've been throwing quite a few tubes and everything, but I haven't tried that yet. But I do have it out. I threw it down in Madison, and and then I would have needed a seine down there, I think. But I've thrown it down there, and it does look really good in the water and everything. And again, there's just so many baits and stuff to try. But I do agree with you. I think it might be something that's going to be working right now. So, by you, have you guys had the rain and stuff like we've had?
Oh, it's been what feels like nonstop. And then in between the rainstorms, we've had that really high humidity. So it's that sticky, hot conditions. And when the wind does lay down, it feels like it goes from stormy conditions to bluebird, calm and hot. There's none of that classic in between where you got, your prefrontal and you want to get out there. Yesterday, I got friends staying from Minnesota out at Stanley's West Arm Camp on Eagle. I'm going to fish with them today. I was going to go out and fish with them yesterday, and I didn't. And they said they basically got chased around the lake by storms on and off all day, and a window never opened up where they really thought it was going to be good. So the rain has been crazy. The wind's been crazy. It looks like in the forecast things are slowly starting to stabilize. We do have some more weather coming this weekend. Looks like Friday, Saturday is calling for some more rain. And then it kind of looks like for us, Monday's our holiday for July 1st. It looks like the second half of this weekend and then going into next week, looks like it should stabilize. And I think going into the new moon, I think that's going to be probably what I would think is going to be our best, time of this season up to this point. And for us, new moon almost always seems to be our personal favorite. When I look back on old videos or our fishing logs, new moon, underfoot, if you get, a really good time of the day where that happens, maybe it's later in the day, closer to sunset, that always seems to be such a key time for us, even more than a full moon. So for guys coming up, we talk about it lots, like try and plan your day around some of those moon phases. Obviously the weather trumps all that, and it's hard when we got these quick moving storms that come through. And that one that come through, I think it was Monday night, the night of the NHL hockey final game.
Yeah.
That storm that blew through here, I looked at the radar and it was down where you guys are in the angle, and it was further south into the States, and it was further north here. It was just a huge band of isolated storms that came through. We had tornado warnings. But they're super quick, they're super isolated, and I know people that are up here at camps are really struggling because you can't plan a day or 2 days and have that stable, okay, we can make a game plan type of weather. And I feel bad for people when it's their week-long vacation and they come up here and they got to deal with that crap, because it makes muskie fishing really tough.
Yeah, I mean, we've had here, the rain. We had some showers last night. I don't know if you guys did or not, but we had storm and wind and all that here that, and it's one of those deals where you look at the radar and it's nothing. Then all of a sudden you look at it in 20 minutes and there's something starting to form. And in an hour, it's the size of Utah. It's an absolute, ridiculous when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. And especially on a big lake, you got to figure out where you want to be and where you got to run to. If you have big water to cross, it's definitely something that you got to factor in. Do you guys have a lot of high water right now?
Yeah, the water's up really high everywhere. My wife just popped in for a second. I'll get her to say hi.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right.
Well, that's good.
My wife runs Bobby's Sports Shop in Vermilion Bay. For any of the listeners, anybody that comes to the Vermilion Bay area probably has shopped at Bobby's, and she runs a shop, got one of the biggest muskie selections in the area, and she's a pretty handy angler herself, and she's got our biggest fish out of our group. She got a 52 and a quarter, almost a half there a couple of years ago on a sucker, no less. So she's a pretty good angler.
How has the shop been doing?
It's good. It's starting to pick up now that summer's here, which is nice.
Yeah, you getting anybody in there telling any lies or about what the fish they're catching?
Some fish stories all the time.
I'm sure. What have you found at the shop, like bait wise and everything? Have guys been buying this year?
So far, lots of bucktails and rubber.
Okay.
And
go ahead.
We did sorry to cut in, Greg. We did a special run with Suick in the old silver jailbird pattern, which we've had a lot of luck with, and we've kind of been known as. So Kyla got Mike and Steve to do a run of silver jailbird, and they didn't last very long, did they, Kyla?
No, actually, we did sell out of those pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Nice. So, at the shop there, tell everybody what all the stuff you have as far as, I know you've got a great muskie selection, but I'm sure you have walleye and then maybe some just Canadian stuff. Or what all stuff do you sell at the store?
Oh, definitely. We're multi-species for sure. We have like a whole walleye wall, a wall that's dedicated to walleye. We got northern pike, bass, trout, pretty much anything you can think of in northwestern Ontario. We have it. The only thing we don't gear a lot towards is like largemouth bass, but smallmouth and largemouth kind of crossover. So there's a bit of everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've been in that shop a long time ago, and it's definitely a pretty cool area. I'm sure Vermilion Bay has changed a lot since I got a speeding ticket there. I did. Well, actually, it wasn't a speeding ticket. I got a ticket there was 3 of us in the truck, and the middle person, this was back a long time ago when I had a single cab truck, and the middle person didn't have a seatbelt. And I was driving from Stewart, I think. Is that the one with the railroad tracks?
Yep.
Yeah, I was driving from Stewart back to Andy Myers, and the guy was sitting at the gas station there on the corner. Is it still a gas station?
That's probably the one she runs. It could have been the other end of town at Highway 105 as
that
well.
One.
Because back in the day, there was lots of gas stations.
Yeah, it was at the one at 105, and the guy was sitting there, and I happened to look over. We made eye contact, and I was like, oh, boy, here he comes. And, and we got pulled over. It was like, what was it, like $190 ticket or something like that, Canadian, for the guy in the middle not having his seatbelt on. And we tried to talk our way out of it, and I did not do a very good job. But it was, that was Vermilion Bay. One of the last times I was there. Not the last time, but one time I was there.
One of the memorable times.
One of the memorable times. Yes, I left with a souvenir, a Canadian souvenir. Do you guys sell anything in the shop? Like, do you guys sell like the Canadian knickknacks, stuff like that in the shop, or is it more just fishing based?
No, we have a whole gift side and convenience store as well.
Nice.
So there's lots of gifts and souvenirs and clothing and small grocery section.
A lot of clothing with maple leaves and mooses on it.
Yep.
But tell them about the food truck as well, Kyla.
Yeah, we have a girl, Tasha. She runs a food truck for us there, and she does a phenomenal job. And she actually sells fish tacos.
Nice.
And the fish is locally harvested out of Eagle Lake.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. That sounds like a winner there.
Yeah, she's done a really good job. She's really taken it to the next level. Just not your ordinary fishing trips or your ordinary food truck, and she does a really good job with it.
And what's the other Canadian delicacy she builds there?
You better.
The poutine.
I was going to say you better say poutine. That's the one thing I
Yeah.
give Canada a lot of credit for. Whoever figured out French fries, gravy, and cheese. Yes, please.
Oh, and she takes it to another level. She'll do dill pickle poutine. She'll do fish bite poutine, fish taco stuff. It's crazy what she does there, and it's a huge draw to Bobby. So you get guys coming in, buying gear in the shop, talking the fish stories, and then going out to eat at the fish or the food truck. So
sure,
it's a pretty cool little spot, and the wife does a good job there. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of her time, and she doesn't get out fishing with us as much as she should.
Oh,
and
I get
speaking
it.
of which, she's got to run to work right now.
Well, all right. Well, hey, good luck at the shop today. And for anybody coming through Vermilion Bay, whether you're going to be coming to Eagle or any of the surrounding lakes, stop in there at Bobby's and, get a fish taco and buy a suic. Damn it.
Okay, thanks for the shout out.
All right. We'll see ya.
All right. See you, Kai.
Bye.
When you talked about Stewart, Greg, I've heard, and I've fished it a couple times. I fished both upper and lower. I talked to Jeremy Smith quite a few years ago, we filmed an episode of a show up here with Jeremy, and he talked about Stewart. What was your experience? I'm assuming you guys did Upper Stewart, where you went in from the old restaurant and then down in by what used to be a flyout service.
Well, now I was staying at Andy Myers at the time, and we had to take a motor with us. Or did we have to take a motor or gas? We parked, I can tell you, we parked right by the railroad track.
Yep.
And Steve and them had boats down there already, and I don't remember if we took the motor. I think we took the motor. And just put it on the boat and just a little 9.9 or whatever, and did that. Lot of fish. I remember the biggest memory of that is I was with God, his name's escaping me, and I don't like it because he's such a good guy. Leech Lake, Jim. He's from Leech Lake, older fella, retired cop. I'll think of it. Oh, that's annoying. Anyway, he parked his Suburban. The battery, something happened. The Suburban wouldn't start, and we were on the train tracks, and we had to and those tracks are active, and so I think we had to push it back. We pushed it back off the track, and within 2 minutes, here come a train. It was not a good situation. Not a good situation for us. But Jim, oh God, I haven't seen him in a long time. I really like him. Great guy in Leech Lake. Did some guiding on Leech Lake. I can't think of the last name. Shit, I'm a dumbass. Anyway, we went out there and moved a lot of fish. I think we caught 3 or 4, all on little bucktails way in the back. This one area. This has been 20 years ago, so
So,
but
I got a couple of stories, and those type of lakes. There's probably a half dozen around our area that would be considered, that pure numbers lake. You could go in and on any given day catch 6 to 12, maybe 18 in a day, but they're 32 to maybe a 40. So Fluke Lake is one up north of Vermilion Bay that a lot of people go into. There's a couple smaller ones very similar in size, and they're typically not real big. So Upper and Lower Stewart are right along the CP rail line, and Dave and I have gone into both. It was a lot of work to get into the Upper one because it used to be a flyout service, and it's right on the railway tracks like Gregg's talking. We brought my 16-foot tinner in there with our quad, got it out into the lake, and we went straight across the lake. There's a back bay. It's really shallow, kind of a horseshoe-shaped bay. I'm sure that's where you guys were. We were using little spinner baits, and we actually turned to buzz bait, so just an oversized bass buzz bait. And the fish were coming in 2 and 3 at a time. Almost like bass when they're schooled right up. It was crazy. I don't know how many we caught the first day. We seen probably, it felt like we seen 100, but we probably seen 30 or more. Uh-huh. And we must have caught 10 or 12. I honestly don't remember. It was a number of years ago. And then we went into Lower Stewart, which is much easier. Again, you drive down what is our experimental lakes area, which is a really cool thing. That might actually be a cool guest for you one day. I'll see if I can set something up for you, Gregg, because even though it's not pure muskie, we have an area west of Eagle Lake, west of Vermilion Bay, and it's called the Experimental Lakes area. Mm-hmm. And they have a number of lakes where they put toxins into the water, or they will take out most of the bait, and they'll see how a native population of fish will react when it doesn't have that natural bait to select on. They do different types of studies, in the water and how the lakes react to different types of sediment and runoff and toxins and chemicals. And it's a government funded area. It's off limits to the public, but they do a ton of really cool research, and it's surrounded by trout lakes and some really good musky lakes back there. It's a really cool place. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it's something that, maybe in the future would be an interesting little topic. But you go down that road, cross the railway tracks, and then you can actually back your boat right in. You could take a pretty decent sized boat in there. And Dave and I went in there and we caught, again, I don't know, 10 or 12. And I think we just changed lures every time we caught a fish. Mm-hmm. They were all 32 to 38. We did see one that we would have maybe pegged in that low to mid 40s, which is pretty legit for those small lakes. But when people come up to Eagle, for example, and you get on a tough week on Eagle, and you can go all week and not see a fish or not have really a chance. And for some people, it's nice to do that day trip to a different lake and have an opportunity to at least boost your confidence or see some more fish. And for the diehard musky guy that's, his lifetime trip is Eagle, I get it. You want to stay there because every cast is a shot at a true giant. But sometimes you just need to recharge the batteries and go to these other smaller bodies of water. And I think that goes anywhere. I've never fished the big lakes in Minnesota, but I've heard the stories, and you have to balance your approach between targeting big fish water and targeting numbers water, because otherwise it's easy to lose sight of, what it is that we're doing when you don't catch and you feel like you're struggling. And it's only been 2 weeks for us, and it's easy for me to start getting down on myself because it feels like we're struggling. We're moving fish, and it's a horrible way to sound that, you're 2 weeks into the season and you've already caught some fish, but you feel down about it. It's just because historically the last few years we've had really good years, and this year it's a little bit tougher, and it's been tough for everybody. And I know it'll turn around, and you just have to kind of grind through some of those rough patches. And I've heard you talk about it plenty on this podcast, and we've talked, off the air. You get those periods, and we all do. And sometimes you just have to just grind through it, even if it's 2 or 3 different trips on the water, right? Like you got to stick with the program.
Oh yeah. It's always, you gotta handle the skunk. That's
yeah.
That's the big thing, especially on, any tough periods or trophy water, all that stuff. It's part of the game, and that's how it works. Jim Murphy. That's his.
You got it.
I did, and Murph was. I just loved that guy. He was great. We had a trip up to Eagle, and we found. I think that was with me, him, Luke Ronestrand, I think Steve was there, and then Kevin Schmidt, and Herbie put us we were in one of the old cabins there next to the water, and the one day it was just windy and super shitty, and we didn't even go out, and I was like walking into one of the rooms, and so kind of put my hands up on top of the door there and just kind of stretched my back, and I felt something. I found an old bag of weed that somebody had ditched in there, and it was really let's say it was past its prime. But yeah, I found an old bag of weed shoved up in the crack of the cabin.
Oh, Jesus, so that's funny.
It was, yeah, I remember that. But no, Glenn, it sounds like you guys are having about the same stuff that we're having over here. We're kind of running to the end here. Glenn, is there anything that you want to promote? I know you got your channel, 54 or Bust. Is there, what do you want to say about it?
I think most people that, whether they know my name or they know it from 54 or Bust, they know we're on YouTube, and we try to just promote the area and, kind of what it is we do. And this year we're trying to just have the channel follow us along a little bit more on the the ins and outs of muskie fishing, because it's real easy to just show the good days, but it's real hard. It's real hard to try and convey what happens in the tough periods, and that's kind of what we're trying to do this year is keep it a little bit more down to earth while, still obviously we're out there trying to catch fish. But yeah, just check us out at 54 a Bus. We're all over online, and you can find my contact information through that. I do some guide trips. I try to limit my guide days over the summer just because I have a full-time job. I help the wife at the shop, and we got a family. So it's always that, balancing act and making sure the priorities are in the right spot. But I love trying to get guys out on Shield Lake. So again, you can find me online there and just look me up, send me a message. Love to talk muskies and get such a great response from, all the viewers. So, I'm very appreciative of that. And, I appreciate all the support from guys like you, Greg, and the Muskie Hunter guys over the years. So that's great. That's really, all we have going on there. I will say that for the next week or two up here with this kind of unsettled weather, I think the guys that will be coming up this next weekend going into July 1st, July 4th weekend, things are looking up. I think you would agree with that, Greg, that I think the next group of guys that are coming into the camps or coming up to Canada are probably going to be getting set up for some of what I would think be the best fishing of the season thus far up here. So that's really kind of where we're at. We're just trying to look forward to getting into what we would consider those pure summer patterns.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing here. It definitely does seem to be getting a little better every day. So I think we hit some stable weather. Things are definitely going to be looking up for us. And guys, if you're coming up to the Northwest Angle or thinking about it, make sure you stop into Jerry's restaurant there right at Young's Bay. We just opened up the Muskie Lounge upstairs. Stop in, have a drink. If you're in the area, we'd love to see you stop by. If you want to go fishing, I do have a few days left. I actually have some next week during the 4th, and then I have some spotty days left in September if you guys want to. And then I'm just starting now to book and get everything settled up for my about a month of Minnesota live bait fishing in the fall. You can always shoot me a text on the text line, and I can help you with that. So, guys, thanks for listening. Glenn, thank you for coming on, and I'm sure we'll be talking later, okay?
Yep, sounds good, Greg. I appreciate it, and I'll reach out off the air and see if we can maybe find a day where I'll run down there, or maybe if you get a day or day and a half window, maybe you can run up this way and we'll go hit Eagle or something. That would be fun to get back in the boat together. We had some good laughs the last time, even though there was some serious crap going on behind the scenes with Muskie Hunter. I think we could have some fun this time. And
sure.
Just want to thank all the listeners, and keep doing what you guys are doing, Greg. It's always fun listening to you guys. I always appreciate everything you guys do.
All right, Glenn. You take care, bud.
Okay, take care. Thanks, guys.
Bye.